We are going to start today by looking at something super cool. So we got one more minute here. I'm just going to wait until exactly 9 o'clock, as that's when I said I was going to start streaming. Thank you guys who are joining tonight. This is awesome to see so much activity over here. I'm super excited about this. I hope that this grows, and I hope you guys help me to get the Twitch stream to grow. And I will promise you this. The more that you guys can get more people to watch this, the more people that are watching this, the more I'm going to do it. So I haven't really seen the big uptick in Twitch viewers yet, but I hope that it happens, and I'll be glad to do this once a week if we get the feedback. Otherwise, if it's not worth the time, I would rather spend that time actually, working on NESmaker or Mystic Searches or anything else, or making a YouTube video where we have a large community right now. But I'm willing to put in the time. I just could definitely use the help. If you guys know people who are on Twitch who would be interested in this kind of thing, let them know we're here. Without further ado, let's take a look at something super fun. So at the end of this video, I'm going to talk a little bit about the bite-off competition and when we're going to reveal the winners. But instead of doing that right now, I don't want to really be reviewing any games that were part of the bite-off competition until we've announced the winners, because that's a little, I shouldn't do that, right? Because they're still in competition. Even though we're not the voters, I feel I don't want to do that too much. So what I'm going to show instead is, and let me do this real quick because I don't like where this is positioned here. Hold on one second. I apologize. I want to get this out of the way over here. And there we go. Okay. So that should be a little bit better. Okay. So what I was going to say is we're going to take a look at, if you guys saw... if you remember Cutter Cross's amazing Tower of Turmoil that he created with an earlier version of the software, he has created another game that is really, really pushing what NESmaker can do and doing things that it was never designed to do, which I think is amazing. And some of you guys have asked specifically about, can I make this type of module? Can I make this type of game? All that stuff. Well, check it out. Here we go. Here is Cutter Cross's newest edition. It didn't make it in time for the bite off, but check this out. So cool. I love how he timed up the actions with the audio that he was creating. So evocative. So, I'll press start. And we get our first NESmaker first-person dungeon crawler. I mean, again, how cool is that? This is not anything that NESmaker, quote-unquote, can do. This was not part of the NESmaker plan. It's not a current module that exists. Cutter Cross decided he wanted to make this kind of game and challenge himself to make this kind of game, and here it is. And that's exactly the point. That's exactly what this is supposed to be all about, is you guys figuring out how to create things with what we're given, not just doing reskins of the tutorial. So I'm super excited to see stuff like this. I don't want to spend too much time on it because I know he might want to release it and show it to you guys, and I know he's still working on it and developing it further. But anyway, that's so cool to see, and I love to see that kind of stuff. And I just wanted to give a big shout out first before I even looked at anything else, just to show that, man, there's so much that can be done with this software if you are willing to invest the time to learn how it works and what you can bring to it. So anyway, thank you for that. I think he's on the chat, so feel free to ask questions. That's kind of neat. I'm gonna check. Let's see. Okay, I just want to make sure. Is everyone seeing everything okay? All right. Everything looks like it's going. So anyway, let's take a look at one of the things that we're most excited to show today, and that is development on the music composition tools. Now, keep in mind, these are still very, very, very early in development, but I definitely wanted to show the start to them and give you guys an idea of how this is progressing. So going to minimize Chrome. Maybe Chrome is causing the problem. Okay, let's take a look at these music composition tools here, because these are great. We're going to look at the music tracker. And again, I cannot stress that this is just the start of this thing, but you'll get an idea. Okay, so the first thing that you guys who are musicians will notice is, hey, we have a piano roll on the left. This looks like a MIDI composition piece of software. The other thing that you guys will notice is at the top right here, it recognized my MIDI device here. And I know you guys can't probably see it too well, but if you can see, here's a MIDI keyboard. It actually recognized it by brand and name of the actual piece. So that's really neat. I'm going to move the camera a little bit so maybe you guys can get a better view of me actually using it. Okay, so the other things to notice right here in the music composition tool are that you can plug stuff in without a MIDI keyboard. You don't need a MIDI keyboard at all. In fact, your computer keyboard, your QWERTY keyboard, ends up shaping like a piano. There's a lot of ways that a QWERTY keyboard can be used to make music, and for me, I wanted it to feel like a piano. So an A is my C key, and a W is my C sharp key, etc. So it's actually set up like a keyboard would be, and that felt way more comfortable to me. You could also just thumb it in with your mouse. So a couple of things as far as what you're looking at. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to set up a looping area. So I'm going to do that by clicking and dragging. I'm going to press back, and this is going to set up. I have a metronome, so if I press play, I can turn that off, and I can hit repeat. And the metronome's off right now, but you can see if I turn it back on, I hear my metronome. Right now, you can actually play while the metronome's going. However, it's still a little unprecise. We haven't worked in the quantizing yet and things like that. But I just wanted you to kind of see that. You can also change the time signature. Right now, we have a bunch of common ones. For 6/8, just use 3/4 and speed up the tempo, that kind of thing. But to give you sort of an idea, if you wanted it an odd time, like, you wanted a 5/4 track, if you listen to a lot of Rush or a lot of crazy cool jazz classical music, you can put things in odd times. Don't forget, this doesn't actually output the data any differently. The NES playback engine doesn't recognize time signatures or anything like that. So this is just for your own personal sort of composition purposes. Let me start laying in something right here. So I'm going to just thumb this in on my MIDI keyboard. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make my note lengths 2 notes long. I could also change the length of my sequence, but right now it doesn't really matter because I've got it looping just in these 2 measures here. So I'm going to go ahead and I played that on my keyboard. You saw the notes pop up over here. Now, the other thing to notice too, I'm going to turn down the square waves especially, is the sounds. We're still working on the sounds. Obviously, we're going to have instruments that you could lay in, but we don't have that as part of the interface yet, but obviously that's coming. So I said this is a ton of work. The music composition tool is probably as big as the rest of the tool itself alone. So, there's so much complexity to it. So let's play that back. Very simple. All right, so now I can put it on square 2 instead of square 1. And I can, make sure that I'm back at the beginning. And I can, and now I get, play that back. Very simple. I could then throw them in a triangle in the noise channel. I could load in instruments and kick and snare. So we wanted to keep it super simple. And obviously, once you have a melody laid in, right-clicking just easily gets rid of things. So let's just say now I want to actually use my mouse. I could stretch notes like this. And this note's a G, so let's do a B, And then let's put an E right here. And I can actually create notes while I'm going. I want to get rid of those. I notice they're gone. So I don't like that too much. I'm going to shorten that. So you can hear it's really easy to sort of just punch in some melodies over a portion. Way easier it's for me and quicker than FamiTracker is because it's so musical. Because it feels so much more like how I'm used to creating music in a MIDI sequencer. And then I could always, one of the things I could do is these are going to change into little images. But you can notice, let's say that these actually crossed. Like I was doing something punchy with some different instruments and I get this kind of thing. Well, I can't see that I put a note there at all. So what I could do is I could actually turn off the visualization and then should be there. So can I move it there? There we go. So right now I can't write it over it, but I can place it over it now. When I turn back on visualization, turn off visualization, you can see they're both there, and you can kind of see this is a little purplish, so you can tell that there's another note underneath there that's semi-transparent. So really cool. It's a great start to what we want to do with the music composition tools, and I'm really, really, really excited about that. I hope you guys are excited about that too. We're putting a lot of time. We're hoping that by the time that this is done, even people who don't want to use NESmaker to make NES games might still use NESmaker to compose their sequences for music and then integrate them into their tools as well. And the goal too is to be able to go back and forth between NESmaker and FamiTracker. So if you want to start in NESmaker and build your composition out this way in a more musical environment, and then bring it into FamiTracker where you can tweak it and add samples and things like that. Awesome. We want to sort of allow for that too. Anyway, okay, so enough about that. I'm going to actually close this out completely. I'm not going to save anything. Let's take a look at some Mystic Searches stuff. Real short little bit of Mystic Searches stuff tonight. Excuse me. I'm going to load up projects, Mystic Searches. Awesome. And I wanted to show you, again, this is just my physics playground and things like that. This is a screen that I made to start testing AI on. So when we started pushing Mystic Searches through 4.1.5 and with all the things that are coming out right now, we disabled a lot of things because a lot of things are changing how bytes are structured and things like that. So this is me just getting back to where we were with AI. And one thing that we changed is how we handled recoil. So in Mystic Origins, for instance, everything uses a 4-directional recoil. So it judges whether you're further away horizontally or vertically, which one of those is higher, and then it reads that and then pushes you in that direction. But I really wanted, especially for enemies, now that diagonal is really pronounced, I wanted diagonal type recoils, and that's because there might be puzzles and things that you have to do that involve your diagonals. Otherwise, what's the point in having diagonals, right? So just real quick, I wanted to show you guys, here's a monster right here. Just a quick look at diagonal type of recoil. And this was actually much harder because that was such a hard-coded feature that's been here for so long. That's actually way harder than it sounded like, even though the code ended up being much smaller than the original recoil code. So let's take a look at this real quick. All right. So you can see I've got my diagonals. I don't know if you guys have really been able to see that with the other screens, but you can really tell when I'm moving diagonal, and you can see that I stay facing diagonal if I let go of the keys. And we use a timer to see when you let go of a certain key in order to handle that. So just real quick, if I hit this guy diagonally, now he actually flies diagonal. If I hit him square on, he flies just straight that way. So this is just a testing screen to test AI and behaviors like this, where I'm not actually testing it on real screens for the game. So that's what that's one of the main things I've been working on with Mystic Searches, just Mystic Searches. Some of the other things that I've been working on is I reworked the text engine, and this was super important because the word for this week is RPG, right? I've been working very hard on the RPG module, which is also in service of Rob McCallum's Gamer Quest game. A lot of people know Rob was a big backer for this project. He supported us for a very long time, and so we're working on his RPG game. RPG is way different than an adventure game or a platform game, and we've talked about this. Everyone asks, why isn't there an RPG module yet? Well, it's because we have to basically break everything and restart it, and do so many things completely differently. And so one of the things that I did that services everything, NESmaker, you as a NESmaker user, Gamer Quest, Mystic Searches, is I took the text engine. How it was there was a certain bank of data that held the text writing engine and all of the NPC text, right? And it had to be like that at one point when we made Mystic Origins. However, now that we're moving forward with that, what I've been able to do is move the engine part of that into the static bank, because we got so much more room freed up in the static bank. I can put the text engine in the static bank. Now that means that you could have NPC data in any bank. So if your game has a lot of text needs, you could fill a couple of banks full of text rather than graphics or whatever. And that's obviously an advanced feature, and you'd have to figure out how to set up constants to tell it to go to what bank and all that stuff. You might even have to write a macro or two. But now it's completely possible, and it's way easier. Probably a few lines of code compared to what it would have been before, which it just wasn't possible. So that's one big thing, and that services both Mystic Searches and the RPG engine and other NESmaker users who want to use that feature. So that said, I'm going to close this out completely. It's a quick look at what we've been working on with Mystic Searches this week. The other thing that I want to show you, actually, you know what? No. I'm going to show you one more thing while I've got Mystic Searches open, because we're doing this for Mystic Searches. One of the big problems that we have right now is that, here's an overworld map, and don't read too much into this map yet. There's still a lot of things that we're working on. Austin is really working on a lot of the graphics and the map and things like that. This is just, we're deciding on things, and I'm working on the physics engine, and we're working with the flow. That's what this project is for. One of the issues that we had was Austin made a big desert area, right? And it kind of goes down in this general area. But originally we had this whole part of the map scooted over 3 or 4, we had it way over here, and it wouldn't have fit. Like the part of the game that he was creating wouldn't have fit. And what I had to do was I had to literally click on each of these, Control C, click here, Control V, and I had to do that with all of them and pray that I didn't accidentally overwrite one that I needed, and it was very unnerving, and it was very time consuming, and then I didn't have it lining up right. What a pain that was. Okay, and if you guys have tried to move around screens or create new screens, you've had that experience where you've had to copy and paste screens. We have totally streamlined that. So check this out. You guys saw this screen right here that I just made. Let's say I want to move that screen somewhere else. All I have to do now is if I hold the Shift key and I click and drag, I can drop that screen somewhere else. So I can literally just completely move around my map. Oops. Got to let go of key first. There we go. I can literally move around my map that easy, which is just, it feels so fun at this point. Now it's like placing, dominoes around or Lego pieces. The other thing that's cool is if you just want to flip the position of two screens, I can hold Shift, and if I click a screen that's already there, bam, they flip, they reverse. So that's really neat. Last but not least, this is something that applies to a lot of you guys. I'm going to move this back into place. A lot of you guys are creating you create one screen and you want those settings to be sort of the default. This was especially true for like platform games where you wanted, you basically made a screen, you set all of its screen info, and then you wanted copies of that as you went across. If I hit Control and Shift, I can duplicate. So it's really easy just to bam, make a whole stretch of screens without having to copy and paste and stuff like that. Really, really, really cool stuff. So that also is another thing that Josh has been working on. That is another big thing that we're doing. And next week, I'll be able to show you guys a little bit about map merging, Josh tells me, which is Austin's working on a version of this. I'm working on a version of this. He's got different screens than I do, and I've got different screens than he does. How could I bring his screens into mine without having to go one by one? Oh my God, that takes forever. Josh is working on a way that I could basically overlay the map, and I could choose the screens that I want to pull in from the secondary file, which is going to save us doing Mystic Searches so much time. If we had had that, a year ago, oh my God, mind blowing how much faster all of this would have been. So anyway, that's what's going on with Mystic Searches and NESmaker. Let's take a look at GamerQuest real quick. There's not a whole lot to see, and again, this is not the game. This is the test area where I test mechanics and things like that, where Austin works on a lot of the game-specific stuff. But I wanted to show it anyway. Let's bring up. I also don't want to give a lot of spoilers on a lot of this stuff. So just, I don't want you guys to see all the behind the scenes stuff, just to get a taste for it. So real quick, what we've got here is, let's see if I saved it. Yes, I did. Okay. So what we've got here is we're going to piggyback, excuse me. We're going to piggyback a little bit on the last Twitch video I did, which showed a pop-up menu and you being able to control the size of the box and things like that. So we've got, a traditional-looking RPG. I made the choice to make him continue to animate walking because that's what I remember in a lot of those RPGs. That's subject to change. This is a RPG that's taking place in a modern setting. We've got this road here. All these graphics are subject to change. Right now we have a giant map of the United States. It's sort of a dystopian version of the U.S. in pixel art. But what's cool is what I showed last time was being able to bring up a box by hitting a control button. So in this, for instance, I'll hit A like you would in Dragon Warrior or Final Fantasy, and that brings up your action menu just like it would in one of those games. And now, you can actually pick what you want that to do. And of course, you can change what these things say, and you can assign what they do. Advanced features, as one would expect, because if you want to do something that the default engine doesn't do, you're going to have to figure out a way to do it. But what's cool is, if I hit one, there's a really easy place where in my script organizer, I can define scripts, right? So I could actually define a script to say, what does status do? And then in this game in particular, it brings up the status of my characters. And it would load in the values of those variables. And I don't know if these are going to be the actual variables, but they were very RPG centric. Your level, your hit points, your magic points, experience points, your status, or your strength and defense, I think I had there, right? So you get the idea. And if you guys have seen Nintendo Quest, there's Jay, there's Rob. So you definitely can make them out here in that pixel art for sure. So showing you that real quick. The other thing that I've been working on, let's go back to start here, is I already have a system in place where a random battle will happen. When I say random battle right now, it just takes you into that mode. There's no battle happening yet. But just for testing purposes, I disabled that so I could have control to show you. Right now, it's going to activate on a button push. So I'm going to hit the H button, which is start for me. And that's going to bring me into battle mode, right? So we're obviously going to make that more dramatic with a sound effect and probably a flash or something, whatever. But you get the idea. Everything will flash to white and then it'll come to here. You get the idea. And one of the concepts of this is that you will join Jay and Rob on this ridiculous sci-fi fantasy dystopian future scenario where you're saving NES games. And it's, Rob always really wanted to have a NES RPG, so we are making him. He decided that's what he wants to do with his pledge, is he wants basically our RPG engine to be the GamerQuest RPG engine, and that's going to be awesome. So the third person here will be a character that you build, and I don't know how many choices you're going to get to have, like hair color and male, female, and skin tone and things like that. But you get the idea. And then your monster would be here, and this would play out like your standard RPGs, and that's what we're working on right now with GamerQuest. So you can see we are working on the RPG engine, we're working on the music engine, we are crazy hard at work on everything, including Mystic Searches. That is still my baby. That is still the reason this whole thing exists. I hope that when it does come out, you guys are as excited to play it as we are for creating it. It has been a long 5 years in working on this project, and a lot of people are like, man, you bailed on that project so you could just work on NESmaker. They don't seem to understand that working on NESmaker is working on Mystic Searches. Some people don't get that. And I don't know how I can show it otherwise other than these videos and show comparisons of what we're doing. But I definitely hope that you guys are excited to play it. It's a lot more than a novelty project at this point for us. You don't work on something for 5 years like this and have it be a novelty project, Anyway, so that's what's going on with this. Before I jump off, I want to give a shout out to one of our higher level backers as well, who is running a crowdfunding campaign right now for something totally non-game related, non-NESmaker related, but fantasy related, which, we're talking about RPGs, we're talking about Mystic Searches, which is an epic fantasy game. And not only that, I knew this girl I've known this girl for 2/3 of my life, and she probably even has some glimmer of memory of me working on some evolution of Mystic Searches in high school. It wasn't probably called that at the time, but she was in a lot of my art classes. Anyway, let me just show you real quick. She has a project right now called Alchemimental. Alchemimental is a deck building game like Magic the Gathering and games like this. I highly recommend, if that's something that you're into, if you like that style of card game, that you check out Alchemimental. If it's something that you like and want to support, she is supportive of us. She's a high level backer. She's a member of the NESmaker community. She even has been talking to me about how can we make an Alchemimental NES game, and she wants to create it. She's asking when the RPG module will be done, so maybe that's something we could work. We even talked about trying to develop a NES peripheral that can read her cards and things like that. So there's been a lot of talk about a lot of really cool stuff. I really support her and her art. So if this is your thing, please go check out Alchemimental on Kickstarter. It's real close to its goal. It's got like 3 days left or something like that. So, Christine, I hope it does well for you, and we really appreciate all the support you've given our project. We want to make sure that we're returning the favor for you. So, last but not least, let's see. Can I do this? Because I think I'm done with my computer here, so I'm going to maximize this. Look at my big face. Okay, so some announcements to make. Those of you who are waiting ever so patiently to know what has gone on with the NESmaker Bite Off competition. I'm going to be putting a trailer up for the award show. We are going to be broadcasting. I don't know if it's going to be live or taped, but we'll see. We're definitely going to release it in 2 weeks from today, on Sunday, June 16th at 8 p.m. We may do a live stream across multiple feeds here, Facebook, YouTube. We may just record it and post it to YouTube, and I will let you know about that. And maybe what we'll do is when we post it, we'll do a stream as well while we're posting it, and so you guys can ask questions. Keep in mind, our team only voted on 2 of the awards, and one of them was the new 8-Bit Hero, which is the person who put in the most effort to help people during the campaign, and the other one was the Wombat, which is the weirdest thing that we didn't expect. I think had Cutter Cross's project made it probably would have won, because I did not expect to see that. But it did not. So there's one other one that really stuck out. The other categories, though, we had zero to do with. We passed it off to judges, and they judged it. So we're really excited for you to see their opinions on the best games. We love to hear your opinions on the best games. So remember, 2 weeks from today, Sunday, June 16th, we'll be posting at 8 p.m., and we're super excited for you guys to see that.